Today's conversation is one of our most personal on the Level Up and Live podcast. Over the last year, our business has grown, our leadership has grown, and our marriage has grown. But none of it happened by accident. It happened because we became intentional about who we wanted to become individually and together. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the conversations that changed our marriage, our businesses, and our lives. Kendra Meyers, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. I think this may be the third time. So third time's a charm, right? On the show?
Is it only 3? I thought it was a little bit more than that, to be honest.
It might have been. I lost count. We're at 214, 215 episodes on the Level Up and Live podcast.
You're killing it.
We're killing it. God is good. So my first note here, my first question, we're going to dive deep into what the conversations have looked like, what's helped us, and pull back the layers. And before this season of life that we're in right now, because on social media, on the podcast, and people that don't see us on a daily basis, they may see the successes, they may see what's going right, the highlight reels. But what did entrepreneurship actually feel like from your perspective before this season of life?
So like before we had it semi-figured out, I would say that it was chaos. So rewinding back, you used to work at State Farm and then you got let go. And I think I was still at Henry Schein at that time. So I was still in pharmaceutical sales and you didn't really know what you wanted to do. And then you're like, well, I don't ever want somebody to be able to fire me again. I remember you saying something like that. And you started thinking about what you could do. And I remember when you're like, I'm going to open up my own insurance agency and I'm going to do it independent. I don't ever want to be captive. And I'm like, okay. I don't even know what all this means. And then I remember us sitting down at the kitchen table and us having to write like a business plan. And at that point, I knew that we both had business degrees, but I was like, I don't think I've ever written a business plan. But I remember we had to submit a business plan. And so we had to sit down and do that. And then it was like, everything after that, it was like a roller coaster and fast paced and constantly busy. I know I switched jobs and I started teaching and you were opening up your insurance agency and we hardly ever got to see each other, to be honest. It was like my first year of teaching. So I was like, nothing's different than teacher tired your first year. But then it's also, I was trying to help you and we were moving in. And then when I did get a summer, I remember you were like, we don't have the resources yet to hire anyone, but I really need help. Like we're growing, but I need help. And I'm like, what do you mean you need help? And I remember you were like, can you please just come answer the phones? And I was like, yeah, if you pay me. And so, because I wasn't going to work for free, but I obviously was a very cheap employee, but I remember that you were constantly, it was nonstop. It wasn't like an 8 to 5. It was more like a 7 to 7 type thing. And I was answering phones and taking care of customers and telling people to pay their bills and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, wait, where is everyone else? Because we were so used to it. Like when we worked in companies or whatever, like there was already a secretary, there was already somebody that was in charge of specific things. And in our case, we had to be in charge of it all. And it was just nonstop.
Yeah. How did that, like during that season of your life, what did that feel like to you as my spouse? Because this was back in
2013-ish,
13 when I got terminated. We bought a house and then we had a dog and then we ended up getting...
Why we did everything all at one time, I don't know.
Sink or swim. Well, I'm curious with you, what did that season feel like for you as my spouse going through that entrepreneur journey with me?
I think it just was exhausting and busy. And I was trying to support you, but also help you. But then I also had my own job. I think during the summers, it's always been easier because when I was teaching in the summer times, I can obviously come help. But during teaching, it was like we barely ever got to see each other. You were constantly at the office. I was teaching. I was cheerleading coach. It was just super busy.
When you were going through that journey in that moment, what did you think I didn't understand as your husband? So we were going through chaos. We were busy. We were working 15, 16, 17-hour days, probably even longer than that. So I'm curious on what did you think I didn't understand as your husband going through that process? Because I was laser focused. I was just trying to survive and make it because my back was up against the wall.
I don't know if I would say that there was anything that you didn't understand. and it might be just because like I was so busy too, like finding a new career with teaching and doing something completely different, but then also trying to support you. I don't know if there was anything. I mean, how did you feel during that season?
For me, it was definitely sink or swim. It was, my back was against the wall and I had no other option or other choice to get to where I wanted to go. I had one goal, I had one mountain, I had one mission to focus on, and where focus goes, energy flows, and I neglected everything around me, whether it was our marriage, whether it was my health, my relationships, even my spirituality. It was all non-existent. And I remember year after year after year, sure, I was building this brand and I was building this insurance company, and to society and even to you, it may look successful on the outside, but it ended up blowing back up in my face years later. And that leads me into the conversation piece. What conversations do you feel like we were avoiding during that process the last 10 to 15 years, or even up until 4 or 5 years ago?
Any conversation? We avoided any conversation. I mean, honestly, then it was more so just like, who's going to let the puppy out? Who's going to train the dog? Who's going to feed the dog? Who's going to do this or whatever? Or I have to do this for the business. And it was more so like not a relational talk. I feel like we didn't have date nights. We didn't have a weekly check-in. We didn't really talk about our relationship, honestly. It was more so just like, how are we surviving?
When we were going through that, I know how I was feeling as the guy that was leading the charge and building the business and doing whatever it took to get to where we wanted to go. I'm curious on how that made you feel as a spouse in that journey when we were having to work together and avoid these conversations. Was it just one of those scenarios where what you don't know is what you don't know? And
I think it was a mix. So I think that part of it was like, oh, I didn't know that married people were supposed to have like a date night or hang out or talk about certain things, like versus just watching a movie and going to sleep because you're so exhausted. So I think the unknown of not knowing how we could grow wasn't in my brain yet. And then also it was just like, okay, well, what can I do to support him? But I know that he's working hard. I know that he's trying to provide, and I was proud of you for doing that. And I wanted to support, and I was excited for you. But then it was also like, okay, when is this going to stop? Like, it's a lot. Like, when are the other people going to start coming into our agency or into our business so that it's not just all on us?
Do you remember that moment when you had that thought or that feeling? Was there a particular time or year that had happened, that thought?
My memory is not amazing. I just know that I was thinking that during certain times. Like, I wouldn't say there was one specific time. For example, I know that when we were working and I was working in the summer, and I would be like, I am not calling another customer to tell them to pay their bills. Like, when are you going to hire someone? And I remember us arguing about that. I'm like, no, like, something's got to give. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, I wanted to support you in your business and I wanted to help, but I did not want to be a bill collector. And so I was like, we've got to figure out who else can do this job. And I remember things like that specifically. And I was like, no, we got to find someone. And that's actually when you like hired Janice, your assistant. But no, not one specific time that I was like, dang, all of it is business. And, you know, we're not having weekly date nights, because I didn't know that that was something that we should have been doing.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. As far as the conversations, I didn't know, for me, like, I didn't even know the conversations even existed. Just being honest, when me and you were together and built a relationship, and then we ended up getting married, over time, we were partners and we had a relationship. But because of everything that we had building together, the insurance company, lawn care company, landscape company, real estate, all these different things that we've done, it was almost like we were working together in unity, but as business partners. And the conversations that I was avoiding was the emotional conversations, was the servant leader conversations, making you happy. What is it that's going to meet your needs, your wants, your aspirations? And I think over time, I finally realized that it's not about me, because for so many years, I thought it was all about me and helping me build the insurance company, the lawn care company, the real estate. And you just went along with it. And I reflect back and I avoided those conversations. Like, is this even what you want to be doing? in building this with me in the real estate and house hacking. Remember when you were doing the VRBOs and renting that out?
That was so annoying.
So maybe those were conversations we were
That
avoiding.
one was forced. That one was forced upon me. In the end, I was glad, but oh my gosh. I remember when I had Kendra's Creations and I would make shirts and stuff like that. And you would be like, oh, well, we're renting our house out this weekend on Verbo. And yeah, we're going to go stay with my mom. I'm like, what do you mean we're going to go stay with your mom? I'm like, I love your mom, but I don't want to go stay with your mom and our dog and her dogs and the cats and everything else. Like, I need to make shirts. I need to do all the stuff. And I remember having to pack up like half of our house to go do that. And that was actually a very frustrating time. Looking back, it was great for us because we obviously paid off 2 houses in the process. So it was worth it. But that was an interesting time.
Yeah. I think it really comes back.
And it was weird that we didn't have conversations about, oh, this is what we're going to do. I think after like a year of us doing it, we decided that we would do it when we were on vacation. But for a while, I'm like, Sean, like, I'm not okay with going to stay at your mom's twice a weekend. And like, is your mom okay with it? And I'm like, we can't just do this. Like, that's so weird.
Was when you brought that to my attention, was in that version of me, was I listening? Was I willing and able to
you were
listen?
stubborn and you said, no, it's what we got to do.
Did I ever explain to you why I wanted to do that?
I don't know. If you did, I don't remember it, through all the frustration of having to move in and out of a house. Because there was sometimes that we would only be at our house for like a week out of the whole month.
Exactly. Reflecting back now, do you know, why do you think that we went through that?
Obviously where we could get where we wanted financially, and we were able to pay off both of our houses and then rent them out, which, yes, it makes sense, but I don't think that it was originally presented to us like that. I think that it was forced upon, and it was like, oh, this is what we're going to do. And I'm like, what do you mean this is what we're going to do? Like, we didn't used to have conversations about, this is what I would like to do. What are your thoughts? What do you think about this? Like, we never used to have those conversations. It was more so like, this is what I'm going to do, and buckle up because you're obviously doing it too.
Yeah, that's so true. Now you hit the nail right on the head. And because I didn't know what those conversations felt like. I didn't know how to have those conversations. I was just coming from a place of, like you said, forge, where this is what we're doing because of fear, of insecurity, of something not working out.
You were a dictator back then.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Definitely.
It was like, this is what we're going to do. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, to this day, I still struggle with it. I still find myself having to be challenged, especially where that really comes up is when there's pressure, when in pressured situations, when I feel like my back's up against the wall. You know, I was terminated from multiple employers, and anytime my back's up against the wall, that's where I fight, I claw, I use anger, aggression, frustration. So I have to be very aware of that, especially with conversations and the situations and the scenarios that I'm in. So,
but I don't know. I guess I have a different mindset because I don't ever feel like our back is against the wall. We always have a decision, and it might be uncomfortable situations, but like whatever the situation is, like God knows that He put us in that situation for a reason, and we're going to learn something out of that situation. Because I feel like if you say back's against the wall, like you only have one decision and you have to make it in order to get off the wall, right? Well, I feel like we could make multiple decisions, but we have to have faith and trust in God that we're making the right one.
Were you able to say what you just said 10 years ago?
No.
Do you feel like we do that now, like that mindset, that paradigm, and what you just said now in our season of life?
I feel like we're working on that. I feel like we're both growing in that area. I think it's easier for me sometimes to step back and see all perspectives, but I think that you've grown a lot and you're like, oh, okay. But it's also the way I say it to you now is like, hey, well, think about it from this perspective. And you're like, oh yeah, that does make sense. Because it's all about how I talk to you and communicate with you too. Yeah,
I agree with you. What would you say going through the journey, when did our Sunday coffee dates that we implemented become non-negotiable, and why have they changed our marriage and where we are in this season of life?
So they became a thing. Well, we went to counseling to figure out like how we could communicate better, because we didn't know how to communicate. We knew we weren't communicating well. It was like, well, this is what I want. Well, this is what I want. well, you do what I want. No, you do what I want, type thing. And it was like just two selfish people, obviously in a relationship, trying to make things work. And we still supported each other, but it was like we were both very hard-headed and stubborn. And so we went to counseling. And then in that counseling, she's like, well, it sounds like y'all do a whole lot of work, but what about work on y'all? And we were like, wait, what? And so we were like, what does that even mean, work on us? Like, we're fine. Like, look at us compared to all the other people out there. Like, we don't fight about money or cheating or dishonesty or anything like that. We had none of that. But we also didn't have an emotional connection all the time, like the intimacy in that way. And so then she was like, well, y'all need to have a weekly date night. And I remember when we first started, we tried weekly date nights, but neither one of us are nighttime people. And it would be like a recap of our day, or we would be tired and we wouldn't even want to talk because it was nighttime. And so we were like, dude, what do we need to do so that we can be like the best versions of ourselves? Like, when do we need to plan this so that it's going to work for us and that we can actually talk and connect and figure out like where we are in our marriage, where we are in life, like how can we support each other, things like that. And then that's when we were like, okay, obviously we're both morning people. Monday through Friday, we have to work on our businesses, in school, whatever. Saturdays, we either sometimes would travel, we would have run club, we would have different things, right? Saturdays were usually like we planned something on a Saturday. And then Sundays, we for sure had church, but we were like, okay, well, church doesn't start till 8:30 or 9, and we're still up before that. So then we were like, hey, why don't we do a coffee date on Sundays? Because we already don't plan things for the most part on Sundays, ever. Not with other people, at least, just church. Like we might be out of town, but we can be out of town and still have our weekly coffee date, right? And so we were like, okay, let's do Sunday mornings because that's when we don't usually plan things. So we're going to put that on the calendar. And then now it's just been on the calendar for a couple of years. Like Sundays are our day to like check in with each other, see how we're doing, like where we're at emotionally, where we can support each other for the week, where we fell short the week before,
What would you say the biggest adjustment would be with that, being able to slow down, ask each other questions, spend that 60 to 90 minutes with each other every single week on a coffee date, on not only working together, but also personally as well? What would you say the biggest adjustment would be?
I think just figuring out how to support one another. Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah.
Like how to support one another. But also one thing that I think is kind of nice is that we also talk about how where we fell short for the week or where we upset one another or something like that, right? And I think that sometimes in the situation, like if you upset me or whatever, I might just be like, oh, okay, whatever. And I might blow it off, but it really did bother me. But I'm really good at forgiving and forgetting too. But I can say on Sundays, like, okay, well, when this specific thing happened, I didn't really like that. And this is how it made me feel. And it makes us have that weekly conversation with each other that we weren't already having. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It almost makes me think like we were so busy for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And we just get in this wheel. I think of this guinea pig wheel that just spins. We think what's important is to meet our customers' demands, our business, our personal, and eating and sleeping and all these different things that we call life. And we don't really slow down to focus in on what it is that what's important to us, which for me, everything else will level up if I serve God and have a relationship with Him and my wife. If I put those two first, everything else falls into place. But I've had it backwards my entire life. I've always put money first, success first. And that's what we've literally just had a conversation about for the last 20 years at the cost of all these other areas of life. And what it does for me on a weekly basis, it allows me to hear you, listen, to understand, even though it's hard and I have to put my ego and pride in check because you are a human being, you are my spouse, and meeting you where you are, it allows me to correct course, make adjustments, and pivot on how I need to show up for you as a husband and serve you, meet your needs, see what you're needing, what your week looks like. And it just allows us to slow both of us down and then what's really important in Sharon's world and what's in Kendra's world.
Agreed.
What would you feel that doing this weekly reflection, for slowing things down, from your perspective, what version of Sean needed to change the most after meeting on a weekly basis that you have seen in the last several years?
Getting someone else's perspective.
What do you mean by that?
Because I think that whenever we first got together, it wasn't about everyone else's perspective. It was only your perspective.
Yeah.
I mean that in the nicest way possible. But now having these conversations, it's like, oh, okay. Like I didn't see it from that point of view. Like that makes more sense now. So seeing someone else's perspective.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like to a certain degree, I always thought I knew it all because I prided myself on so much personal development, reading books, podcasts, and I really never identified myself as being a student. And once I made that adjustment in my mind, then it became an alignment with what you're saying. I need to hear these other individuals' perspectives because they're looking at the world in a different lens, and it allows me to be open, you know?
Yep.
What version of Kendra has changed the most?
Probably the same thing, seeing somebody else's perspective or listening and also talking about feelings. I cannot stand talking about feelings to this day.
Yeah, that's
but
a
I feel like
challenge.
I've gotten better at it.
Yeah, the feelings for me, what's happening is friends, family, they're getting older, people are passing away, people are getting sick. And when you're in your teens and 20s, that really, it's really not happening. But up in your upper 30s and 40s and 50s, that starts happening more. And in order to build connection, especially with me and you, when things do happen, especially here in the last month, 2 months, I've noticed a shift in your emotions and your feelings and how you're feeling with some of our closest friends and family that are experiencing hard times. And by you expressing those feelings to me, I have to really slow down and sit with that, even though it's uncomfortable for me as a husband, because I need to be able to connect with you in those moments. Because I know if I don't, what I would do in the past, I know if I didn't sit with that uncomfortability and those feelings or emotions with you or allow you to have that time, then it just becomes transactional. Then there's a disconnect. There's friction between our marriage. So I need to be able to sit in that uncomfortability with those emotions and feelings because it's important to you. And it's a struggle because I immediately want to shift to business mode, get stuff taken care of. I don't have time for this. So I have to challenge myself to slow down, to sit with that, because that allows me to connect with you and show, and ultimately, what does that do for our marriage? At least, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it allows me to show that I care about where
and I think part of that too is we're at the point of our life that relationships matter, not just our relationship, but everything isn't only just about business.
Right.
Like we've learned that you can make a lot of money, but does that really make you feel successful? What makes you feel successful? Thinking about what somebody might say at our funeral one day. Are they going to say that all we cared about was business and we never went and visited our family or hung out with whatever? Or, you know what I mean? Like, what legacy do you want to leave behind is part of that too. And building those relationships with our employees, our people that are in our lives, our families, our friends.
What advice would you give another husband and wife listening to this that's building a business together?
I'd probably just say, do the weekly check-in. Ask what worked well for you this week. What did not work well? How can I support you in this next coming week? And maybe share something that person could help with that week. How could they support you? I mean, obviously we have a lot more questions than we go over in our hour of talking to each other, hour and a half. But I think just once a week, spending at least 20 minutes with your spouse. I don't even care if it's on a date, like literally go shut your bedroom door and lock all your kids out and say for 20 minutes, like, what did I do well this week? What did I not do well? What can I do to support you this coming week? And how can I serve you? And I think that would be a game changer in 90% of the marriages. And it makes people uncomfortable to have to answer those questions at the beginning. But I think that's how you're going to grow as a marriage.
Yeah, great advice. When you look back 20 years from now, what do you hope we're most proud of?
The legacy that we left and the relationships we've built with each other and everyone else.